Hey guys, TKC here, the Kaijudo channel. Welcome to another episode of Kaijudo News. And guess what? The 5 Mystic spoilers have started. We already know 1/6 of the whole set pretty much. We know 11 out of the 60 cards, including a lot of the Mystics and Absolute Spells. So let's get straight to it. We're going to be talking about all these 11 cards in this episode, along with some other cool news right after that. So let's go ahead and start with the 2 cards that were made at the R&D session at Summer Champs, where the competitors split into 2 groups and created 2 different cards. These cards being none other than Psychic Predator Rusalka and Soul Devourer Black Feather. And we're going to go ahead and start with the Rusalka right over here, Psychic Predator Rusalka. I previewed this card on my website and then posted it on the Kaijudo Dojo. So thank you very much, Wizards of the Coast, for giving me this card to preview. It was a lot of fun and really cool to see all the reactions that this card gave. And yes, the card got completely unchanged. The R&D team at Wizards of the Coast playtested this card over and over, and they figured that at its fragile 2000 power, they figured that the card was, alright. It was pretty much good where it was. So, level 4, 2000, it can't be blocked with its evasive ability. And then it also has Psionic Lockdown, which is basically whenever it enters the battle zone or whenever it attacks, you lock a creature, basically. So one creature can't attack or block until the start of your next turn, just like King Tritonus' ability. So needless to say, this card is pretty much bonkers. This card is absolutely nuts. It's basically a complement to the original Rusalka. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see tempo decks using maybe 6 Rusalkas in the deck, 9 if you're absolutely insane with the Guardian Rusalka, but having a good balance of this Psychic Predator Rusalka as well as the other Rusalka Aqua Chaser, is going to be really fun in tempo decks, especially the Mega Bug decks, because then Hive Queen can summon it using its ability, and a bunch of cool combos can happen from there. Next, we're going to talk about the Black Feather right here, Soul Devourer Black Feather, a Spectre, level 8, 5000. Now this one did get changed. This one used to be a level 6, 3000. Its ability is Dark Tactics. Whenever this creature enters the battle zone, you reveal the top 3 cards from your deck, choose a creature among them, and all creatures lose power equal to that chosen creature's power until the end of the turn, and then you put the cards in your discard pile. So you can pretty much wipe the whole field with this card, and this is pretty much the first card of its nature in that it completely blows up the whole field, potentially. Now, because this is another card that basically relies on variance, where you have to flip the top 3, and then hope you get a creature big enough to wipe the whole field, or at least most of their field, it's actually not too much of a problem, I think. Of course, you can fill your deck with as many big things as you want. Control decks already have a bunch of huge creatures in there, so just throwing this in will, give you some more ways to just blow up the field in case, things are going a bit crazy. I think my personal favorite part about this is that this is way better than Val Malvictus, in that it has a lot more potential to get rid of everything instead of just minus 3000. This is going to be a really huge buff in my Veilslip Megaria deck. If you see my Veilslip Megaria deck, it uses Veilslip to combo into Megaria, or into Kivu, or into Val Malvictus. Now, if you switch Val Malvictus with this Black Feather right here, it's absolutely nuts, because you basically have a turn 5 or potentially turn 4 board wipe, because that deck has a bunch of creatures that are over 10,000 power, and then you have Veilslip and Ramp in Sprout and Lemon, so that way you can get Veilslip, as early as turn 4, or even earlier if rush decks are attacking your shields. You hit a Veilslip in your Shield Blast, you bring in the Black Feather, you flip your top 3, and then it's like Haven, Colossus, and some spell, and then boom, their whole field's gone, and you pretty much stabilize from there. So I think Veilslip Megaria, or Veilslip Black Feather, if you will, is going to be an interesting deck to look into. Alright, now let's go into the main cards of the set, and those are the Mystics and the Absolute Spells. Right now we know 4 of each of those. We do not know the Darkness Mystic, and we do not know the Darkness Spell. So we're going to go ahead and start with Light. We have the Mystic of Light right here, and this one's pretty cool because this is the only super rare out of all the Mystics, which is kind of interesting and kind of unexpected, but awesome nonetheless. It is a level 7, 7500 power Mystic, which is going to be the race spread amongst all these Mystic cards. It has Zone Breaker, Renewal. When this creature enters the battle zone, choose a light spell in your discard pile and return it to your hand, so that's kind of neat. You can get Bat Storm, Spark Blast, Reverberate, Piercing Judgment, things like that. Pretty useful. And then we have Mystic Harmony, which is pretty much the win condition, the very first win condition in Kaijudo. At the end of your turn, if you have at least 1 Mystic in the battle zone from each civilization, you win the game flat out. So the thing is, this is a really hard ability to pull off. Think about Destiny board from Yu-Gi-Oh! If you've played that, you basically had to play 5 cards in a row and be sure that those cards stay in play and they all have to be on the field at the same time. Now, this is pretty much the same situation, except this is a game that uses resources, so not everything costs 0. All these things cost in a range of like 4 to 7, or maybe even higher or lower, because we don't know what the darkness one is yet. So it's going to be really, really hard to pull this off, but if someone can do it, it will be super, super awesome, and that's why these mystics are really cool. And the other thing is, you don't have to throw in all these mystics in your deck. Of course, if you want to get the win condition, sure, you can build a deck based around that, but you can use the mystics themselves alone just for their abilities. So I think these mystics have a lot of potential in, you know, any deck, and not just a mystics focused deck. But alright, let's move on to the Mystic of Water, right over here. Level 5, 3000, blocker guard. And it has inspiration. When this creature enters the battle zone, search your deck. You may reveal a water spell from it and put that spell into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. So if you're seeing a pattern here, all these mystics have to do with a spell of the same civilization. So this case, you can search for a water spell. And that could be Reverberate once again. I kind of hate to mention those light water cards a lot, but they're really good. I think this Mystic's probably my favorite out of all of them right now, because you can just search for a water spell, including the Absolute spell, which is really powerful, and I'll get to it eventually. But, you know, turn 5 this into turn 6 Reverberate is, you know, just a pretty cool line, and I like to see that happen in Control. I think it might actually fit into Control decks, you know, just to get to the Reverberate or get to the Piercing if you really need that. The only downside of this card is that it has guard, so you can't, you know, revenge kill creatures that are attacking you, but hey, at least it's a blocker, so that's pretty cool. So we don't have the Mystic of Darkness, but let's go straight to the next Mystic, which is the Mystic of Fire. This one's pretty cool. It's a level 6, 6000 double breaker, and it has Fervor. Whenever you cast a fire spell, choose one of your opponent's shields, this creature breaks that shield. Now, this is pretty cool, because now I think there's kind of potential in some sort of burn deck. And this is because now there are a lot of cards that basically say break your opponent's shields without you having to attack them. Now, of course, we had Darkscar Adorable before, we had Doom Blast, we had a bunch of ways to break shields already outside of attacking, but I think this kind of pushes it over the top a bit, because now you can reuse it. You can, you know, fire spell, do it again. You have Spellbane Dragon also that you can use. You can do a bunch of combos there. And lastly, we have the Mystic of Nature. This was the first one spoiled. Level 4, 5000 power, which is pretty big for a level 4, especially one that's not vanilla per se. And its ability is Renewal. Whenever you cast a nature spell, choose a creature in your discard pile and put it into your mana zone. The only problem with this card is that, let's say if you do play it on turn 4, chances are you probably don't have a creature in your discard pile at that point, unless your opponent is discarding your hand and choosing creatures like Andromeda or something like that. And then next turn after you play the Mystic of Nature, you play Mana Storm, and then you ramp like 3 with the Mana Storm, which would be pretty insane, because you could go, you know, straight from 5 to 8, and the next turn you have 9 for Andromeda. Woo! Turn 6 Andromeda. Pretty cool stuff. I think it's interesting. I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. Just for the fact that it's 5000 power for a level 4 is pretty insane. So I think this has potential just because it doesn't die to Herald of Infernus unless Herald gets boosted. And, you know, it has potential to ramp you more than you should be. So I think it's an overall pretty cool card. Alright, but let's move on to the spells now. The absolute spells. These are the absolutely crazy spells that get the very rare treatment and do really powerful things. And they're all like really high levels. But here we go. Let's start with the light one. This is the expensive one right now. It's a level 10 Radiant Purification spell. Choose up to 2 target enemy creatures, your opponent shuffles them into his or her deck, and then tap all enemy creatures. This one's pretty cool, definitely has a lot of potential. You know, a lot of people do like to, you know, hard cast Stormspark, and then this kind of just like, oh, okay, I don't like those 2 creatures, I can't get rid of them with mine, so let's just put them in your deck, and then I'll get rid of your other creatures by just attacking them. Definitely interesting spell. For level 10, you get a lot of value there. It's basically like a double Terror Pit in a way. A double Terror Pit and a Stormspark in one card, except it's not a Shield Blast. And next, for water, we have the spell of Liquid Compulsion. This one's a level 9. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may put a non-evolution creature from among them into the battle zone, and then put the rest into your hand. So this is basically kind of like a logo scan, and then also a Bottle of Wishes, but a better Bottle of Wishes in a way. I think right now this is probably my least favorite of these spells. I mean, the drawing 3 cards is pretty cool. Well, I guess 2 if you get a creature. But I think level 9 is a bit too high costed for this, in my opinion. I think if it was a lower cost, or maybe you drew more cards, I think it would be a bit better. But who knows? I have no clue, but I definitely see a lot of potential in this, and I could see a lot of cool plays where you ramp into this, you play it turn 6 or turn 7, and then you get like an Andromeda or a Haven or something big a lot earlier than you're supposed to, and at the same time you're drawing cards. So yeah, really cool card. Now for fire, we have the spell of Absolute Incineration, and this has to be my favorite of all the spells so far. This is absolutely nuts. So level 8. Right, let's start with that. Level 8, you're banishing a target enemy creature that has power 9,000 or less. Then you banish a target enemy creature that has power 6,000 or less. And then you banish all enemy creatures that have power 3,000 or less. Whoa, okay, so you're banishing a lot for a level 8 spell. If you look back at the fire spell Kaboom, that was a level 7 that got rid of a 6,000 power creature. And that didn't even have Shield Blast. That's what's so silly about it. But now we have Absolute Incineration, and it does what Kaboom does, but it also banishes a 9,000 and all 3,000s for only 1 mana more. So sorry Kaboom, you're completely gone out of this game because Absolute Incineration just completely replaced you, and this is just absolutely insane. Now instead of playing Andromeda to seal the deal against tempo, you can just play this card and, you know, just really seal the deal against tempo. Because even if you play Andromeda, they could go like, oh, bounce it with Finbar, attack with everything, I still win the game. Whereas if you use this, you're like, I blow up your whole field, go, and then they're like, I can't do anything about that. I can't come back. You just blew up my whole field. Now I can't attack you next turn. By far, this is like the most insane spell so far, and I can't wait to get 3 copies of this and shove it into a control deck and just hate on all the tempo decks and rush decks if you can get to that turn. Awesome card. And then lastly, for these spells, we have the nature spell of Swift Regeneration. Level 8. And this one's really cool. This is a pretty unique ability right here. Choose any number of creatures in your mana zone that have total level 7 or less and put them into the battle zone. So you can put, you know, a Finbar, bounce something, attack with everything. Or you can put, you know, a bunch of little things like Mana Pod, Aqua Seneschal. You know, you can do a lot of weird combinations. Oh, and also you can evolve with it too. So you can do like, let's say you already have a Prickleback on your field, you evolve a Sabertooth on it. Boom, attack with Sabertooth, and you have a fast attacking thing. Yeah, that part's really, really cool. I like that part of the effect. But it also has one more, which is even cooler, and it's also very unique. Until the start of your next turn, all your creatures that have more than 0 power can't be banished. So if you follow Magic the Gathering, this is basically indestructible. It's not hexproof, but it's indestructible. So basically, it can't be banished, but it can still get Root Trap because it goes to mana. You can still bounce it, you can still tap it, you can basically still target it with a lot of things. Now, this card is probably my second favorite spell. This is basically that push that like Lightwater Nature Tempo needed, I think, because it basically gives them like a Squillis Scourge 1 turn earlier, but no body, basically. Like, okay, they can still block and stuff like that, but your creatures don't get banished. They're like protected from basically everything except for, let's say, okay, Stormspark Blast, Piercing Judgment, Root Trap, and, you know, various minus X000 spells. So they're protected from a lot of things. Maybe not everything, but I guess half the things, especially like half the things in control are pretty much, you know, completely gone and erased from the equation. Like Drill Storm, nope, not happening. Terror Pit, nope, not happening. Bone Blades, nope, not happening. And then the best part is you pass it to them, and they can't go, oh, attack with my creatures and get rid of yours. No, they're protected. They can't be banished. You can attack them if you want to, but then you're just tapping your creature, and they're, you know, you're just looking pretty at each other, and nothing happens. So yes, I definitely see a lot of potential with this card, especially in tempo decks, because it's just, you know, a really big swing out of nowhere, and, you know, all your creatures are protected, and then your opponent really doesn't have much ways to deal with that. So cool card. I love all these spells. I love all these mystics. They're going to be so much fun to build decks around. And then hopefully we get to see the Darkness ones very soon and see how crazy those cards are. However, there is one more card that was previewed, and that was previewed on the dojo. This is Overlord Sargon. Overlord Sargon is a level 7, 6,000 power Shadow Champion and Armored Dragon. That's an awesome combination. It has Fast Attack, Double Breaker, and Grim Command. Whenever this creature attacks, you may choose one of your other creatures and banish it. If you do, banish target enemy creature that has power 5,000 or less. So this is a pretty cool ability. I like it. I could definitely see this make a splash in Dragon. I think they're going to at least give it a shot before Herald of Infernus gets rotated out. Definitely a lot of potential. Fast Attack on a level 7 is always nice, especially when it double breaks. And then On top of that, you can like banish stuff while you're attacking, so you can get rid of like 2 creatures with just this. So yeah, I really like this. Really cool card. I definitely see this card getting some play in the KMCs. So those were all the cards we know of so far in the 5 Mystics. Really powerful cards, if I do say so myself. Lastly, one other piece of news. They revealed the deck list of the secret, oh so secret, 6th sample deck that they're giving away for free at Duel Days. They said at Winter Champs in the panel that this deck is going to be competitive, just like the Triple Strike deck, but this one's going to be given out for free to people, which is absolutely awesome. Now, if you look at the deck list on the site, I'll post a link in the description. It is basically a Light Fire Rush deck, and it has a lot of cards from Light Fire Rush. It doesn't have Major Owl, sadly, because it's a super rare, but it does have cards like Blitzermech Falcora. It also has Blinder Beetle Prime, tons of Enforcers that you typically see in this kind of rush deck. And I think the very interesting part about this deck is that it doesn't have like Blaze Belcher, Comet Missile, and stuff like that, and I think that is because they tried to make the deck legal for standard play once that format kicks in, so they didn't want any cards from, you know, the Rise block or Triple Strike or things like that. However, if you look at the deck list, there is one card on there that is from the Rise block, and that is Blinder Beetle, the standard Blinder Beetle, so that kind of leads me to believe that this Blinder Beetle will probably be reprinted in the Gauntlet block. Just an interesting thing I noticed. I mean, at worst, maybe there won't be a reprint, and then they'll just say, oh, if you want to keep on using this deck, take them out, and then put in some other card that taps or some other Enforcer. Really cool that they thought about the standard format for this deck. And yeah, it looks like a really cool deck. For a Light Fire Rush deck without, you know, all those old cards, it actually looks pretty cool. So I definitely suggest you pick up that deck whenever you're Duel Days, get them. Well, maybe not for people who've already played, but for people who are just wanting to get into the game, it's a perfect deck to give to your friends to get competitive. But alright guys, now for real, I am done with all that news. This was a long video, I'm sorry for that, but I really wanted to talk about all the cards so far, and there's just so many to talk about, and I wanted to give all my opinions on them, and I hope I did that well enough for you guys. Before I go, in the comments, go ahead and tell me, what is your favorite card right now? What is your favorite Mystic? What is your favorite Absolute spell? Just go ahead and post in the comments. I'd like to see what you guys think of the set. Like I said, I think my personal favorite right now is the Absolute Incineration spell. That card looks absolutely crazy. I also like the Rusalka, and I like the Swift Regeneration spell myself. So go ahead and put that in the comments, guys. I'm looking forward to reading all your comments. Thank you all so much for your support on the YouTube channel and, you know, my website and all that. Go ahead and check it out at KaijudoChannel.com. So I'll see you guys all later. This is TKC signing out. Peace out, guys.